You probably think of copper as just the stuff in your pipes, maybe your wiring. But what if I told you that this very common, everyday metal has become one of the single most critical materials shaping our entire economic future? That it might actually be the bottleneck for some of our biggest global goals?
All right, let's break this down. First, we'll talk about why copper has always been seen as an economic doctor of sorts. Then we'll get into the new kind of demand that's totally changing the game. After that, we'll look at the supply side, why it's so squeezed, and the huge deficit that's opening up. And finally, we'll tie it all together to see what this means for copper's new job in the global economy. So first up, let's talk about why copper got this reputation, this nickname, a PhD in economics. It's really the key to understanding why we're even talking about this. Yeah, for years, people in the know have called it Dr. Copper. And here's why. Its price has this almost uncanny ability to predict where the global economy is heading. Before we even get the official numbers, the price of copper often tells us if things are about to speed up or slow down. It's a fantastic leading indicator. And that's what makes it so different from other big commodities. Gold prices can spike because of fear. Oil can go crazy because of geopolitics. But copper? Its demand is tied to actual stuff being done. We're talking building, manufacturing, putting up power lines. If people are using copper, it means the real economy is humming along. And wow, its track record is pretty incredible. It saw the 2008 financial crisis coming. It signaled a huge recovery after the pandemic in 2020. For decades, it's been the go-to for diagnosing these short-term cyclical ups and downs. But here's the twist. What happens when the demand for this metal stops being cyclical and becomes something else entirely? Because that's exactly what's happening right now. Okay, so that brings us to a whole new kind of demand. We're talking about a structural shift, a permanent change that is completely rewriting the rules for copper. I mean, just look at electric vehicles. This isn't some trend that's going to come and go. It's a permanent shift. And get this, an EV needs up to 4 times more copper than a regular gas-powered car. 4 times! For all the motors, the battery, the wiring, it's just packed with it. And when you look at the numbers, the scale is just massive. We're not talking about a little bump here. We're going from roughly 20 kilograms of copper in a car to about 80. That creates this huge new hunger for the metal that frankly just wasn't there 10 years ago. But listen, it's not just cars, not even close. This demand surge is coming from everywhere. We're talking about modernizing our entire electrical grid, building out massive wind and solar farms. And here's a new one. All the data centers needed for the AI revolution, they need a ton of copper too. It's a huge shift happening on all fronts at the same time. Okay, so you're probably thinking, fine, demand is going through the roof. Why don't we just, mine more? Well, that's the logical question, right? But the answer is, really complicated. This right here is probably the most crucial point on the supply side, the timeline. It is just unbelievably long. From the moment you find a new deposit to the day you get your first piece of copper out of the ground, we're talking an average of 17 years. 17! So a decision to build a new mine today, we won't see any of that copper until the 2040s. Supply just can't respond quickly. And to make matters worse, the quality of the rock we're digging up, the ore, has been getting worse for decades. The average quality has dropped something like 40% since the 90s. Think about what that means. You have to move and process way more rock just to get the same amount of copper. And that costs more energy, more water, and yeah, a lot more money. And the problems keep piling up. We're just not finding many big new deposits anymore. Only about 14 in the last decade. Plus, most of the production comes from just a couple of places, which makes the whole system pretty vulnerable. And yeah, recycling is great. It's super important, but let's be real. It can't possibly close a gap this big. So what happens when you get this relentless, unstoppable demand crashing head-on into a supply side that's basically stuck in molasses? Well, you get a situation that we've really never seen before for a commodity this important. And when you look at the projections, they are pretty eye-opening. By 2035, demand is expected to just keep climbing, while the supply from existing and new mines kind of flatlines and maybe even starts to fall. We're not talking about a little shortfall here. This is a huge structural gap that the market just isn't built to handle. Let's put a number on it, because this is wild. We could be looking at a supply gap of almost 30% of total demand in about a decade. I mean, in a balance that big, for something as basic as copper, it's pretty much unheard of. And this quote really just puts a fine point on it. To get to where we want to be by 2050, the world is going to need more copper than humanity has used in total since the year 1900. Just let that sink in for a second. So, what's the bottom line here? What does all of this mean for the economy, for the energy transition? This is where we see copper's role in the world really, truly change. You see, copper isn't what it used to be. It's no longer just signaling the ups and downs of the business cycle. Now, its demand is driven by these massive, long-term goals, things like the energy transition and AI that aren't optional. So the market shifts from having these little temporary shortages to facing a constant long-term deficit. And this is the big takeaway. Dr. Copper isn't just taking the economy's pulse anymore. Now it's actually becoming a physical limit, a constraint. It's the bottleneck that could decide how fast and how expensive our collective goals are going to be. Its availability could literally set the pace for the entire energy transition. So we're left with this huge question, right? We have the goals, we have the technology, the will is there, but do we have the actual stuff to build it, the physical materials? Because the energy transition is coming, for sure. But the real question now is there enough copper to actually build it?